We have one coming in from Matt, who writes, James, what do you think of the Zeitgeist Movement? Is there a term you use for your worldview? Thank you for the answer, Matt. I think there's a couple of places where I've articulated my general misgivings about the Zeitgeist Movement and its associated Venus Project. For example, Against Utopia, an edition of the Last Word video series, and episode 217 of the podcast, Against Technocracy, I think are very much to the point of dispelling the idea that the resource-based economy is truly something new, different, or revolutionary. In fact, this has been talked about for at least a century, the idea of having this scientific way of trying to decide how to run the economy. And a lot of the very same ideas were talked about in the technocratic movement of the last century, including the idea of using energy as a form of currency, of resource to be exchanged, and things of that nature. Again, a lot of these ideas have been kicking around for a very long time, and fundamentally, I do not agree with them. I do not believe that they will work. Central planning simply will not work, and it certainly will not work for some supercomputer with some algorithm that some supposedly exists, but none of us have ever seen, that can somehow make all of the various economic determinations and calculations based on the varying and competing interests and values of 7.5 billion people, or whatever it is now, 7 billion people, is just on its face patently ridiculous. Again, economic determinations come down to competing interests and competing values, and those are also in flux. What one person values or is interested in society today is not necessarily what they will be interested in tomorrow. And to have a system where apparently this is going to be solved by some supercomputer divvying up the resources and deciding what we need in order to function as a species, just patently ridiculous. So I don't subscribe to it at all, but I think that the better point to be made here, and one that I've made numerous times, including in my recent interview on the Greening Out podcast, is why should you care what I believe? If you're a supporter of the Zeitgeist Movement or whatever type of movement, and I don't agree or concur with you, who cares? Go and prove me wrong. That is the ultimate test is going to be in reality, not in argumentation. So if you think that a supercomputer is going to be able to run the world, well, why don't you go create your community and build it up and show me that I'm wrong about this problem, and I'll gladly eat my hat and ask for seconds and come join you once I've been proven wrong in reality. But a lot of people like to talk about and argue about these ideas rather than actually implement them. So that's where I stand on that. As to my own worldview, what term I use for my worldview, freedom would be the best term, single word, I guess. Obviously, it's a loaded term, so as less of a cop-out, I use the voluntarist label. I think just free and peaceful interactions between human beings is going to be the way forward for us as a species. Either that or we perish. I really do think of it in those terms. Either we will find a way to live with the fact that people will disagree with us and people will want to do their own thing and other people will do things that we disagree with. And as long as they're not infringing on us, who are we to tell them what to do? Again, that's a very difficult thing for human beings to be able to process. And until the human species collectively comes to that understanding that we have to be able to leave people to do things, even things that we disagree with, in their own space, in their own time, to themselves, then until we start to get over that mindset that we must control everything and everyone must agree with us, everyone on the planet must be in conformity with our wishes, until we can get past that childlike urge, we are on the risk of global extinction, and that will continue as we continue to creep towards the precipice of a third world war and all of the craziness and zaniness that comes from basically continuing to abrogate that fundamental free and peaceful interaction between human beings that, again, I think is the only way forward for us as a species. So that's a long response to a simple question. But at any rate, let's move on to the next question.